to Debbie Phillips Bolt test. If you guys have ever been part of Debbie's Bolt test, I am most recently, we started dabbling in Enneagrams. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but an Enneagram, which is spelled ENNEAGRAM, is a test, and it actually goes into 9 different personality types. And I'm a number 2, a helper, and I love giving that test to our team members, so I really understand why they make the decisions they do, because a lot of times I don't agree with their decisions, or I don't agree with what they're doing, but when I understand their personality trait, it's like an aha moment, right? I'm like, oh, okay, that's why they're doing that. So really, it's understanding people and making sure we put them in positions where we can maximize their strengths. And I think that's the biggest lesson learned. And Kim, I love your golden rule. I've always lived by that as well. So yeah, so those are my 2 cents.
Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate that. Strength Finders is another one that has been pretty awesome as well. Anything we can do to learn about our teams and to know what makes them tick and kind of find out what their why is really important. So another great lesson. Thank you very much, Tracy. Hi, Sharon Hatfield. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. What's the most impactful leadership lesson you've learned in your career?
Well, it's really hard to follow these ladies because they gave some amazing answers. But I have struggled to probably find just one. I think we all have a few. It was interesting to note that all of us met earlier and we were talking about some of the misses and fails and challenges that we've had along the way. And we all agreed that when we looked back on our careers, that there was nothing we would change or do over. So I think I wanted to share that because I thought it was important for people to know that even for all of us here, we felt like everything we've experienced and the lessons that we've learned were part of that journey and helped shape us. So there's nothing that we would really change. But early on, I've heard some common themes. One of the things I would definitely agree with is having the right people on your team. No lesson I think that we share today is relevant if you don't have the right people on your team executing those lessons. But I think the main thing that I really have learned along the way is around how we handle our mistakes. And simply that is, if you make a mistake, own up, apologize, and move on. Don't ruminate or be defensive. I have learned to appreciate feedback through the years. Listen, think, and go, what can I do with this information? Feedback's a really powerful leadership tool that I think is underused. So I always tell people, if you're not making mistakes, then you're probably not doing something interesting enough. And the second big one is embracing change. I got started in the career as a leasing consultant, like so many of us. I worked for the same organization for 12 years, worked my way up through the ranks. And although it was an amazing company and a great group of people, I will say it limited me to some experiences in learning how to do things different ways. So I would say there's something to be said for change and spreading your wings. And I finally did that. And although I'm thankful for that stable beginning that I had, sometimes I like to imagine how much more impactful I might have been to others if I'd tried different things, met more people, read more books, networked. So believe it or not, I spent a good chunk of my life shy. I'm sure there are some here who are like, no, there's no way. I really was. I think that held me back for a while. So I would just say, put yourself out there, embrace that change, and create change for yourself. And sometimes that change can actually be a catalyst to even more amazing things in your life and career.
Love that. Accountability is a lost art, and I think people sometimes look at that in a negative light, but it's not. Accountability is critical to success, and I think everybody in this meeting has experienced some change in the last couple of weeks or months. I think maybe. So yeah, embracing change and working through that is absolutely an important part of growing as a leader as well. Thank you so much for that. Another great answer. Let's go to another question. This one I'm going to start with you, Kim, just a heads up if you don't mind. What advice would you give to women? Guys, don't worry, you can learn from this too, I promise. But what advice would you give to women who are early in their careers and who aspire to grow and achieve higher levels?
Let's see. I would say first, do not be intimidated by men. We are strong and we are mighty, and we're in large groups in numbers in this industry now. So we're taking over the world. So remember that, ladies. Secondly, I would say the biggest thing I think that I learned throughout my career and what I really try to mentor to other women and men within this career path is educating yourself, because that's the one thing that no one can ever take away from you, whether it's investing in, your 4-year degree or a certification like your CPM. You see how I did that there? Yeah, you see that? Yeah. Those are items to me that are so invaluable. It could also just be as simple as finding a mentor. I think that that's one of the most important things especially for women in this industry that are trying to grow, is finding other women that are like-minded, that are going to really help you to foster that education, that drive in you to get you to that next level. I can tell you that Dr. Debbie has been a mentor of mine for years, and I'm so thankful for her and her energy and excitement at all times. Even when she's going through things, you'll never know it because she always has that beautiful smile on her face. But that's what keeps you motivated. That's what keeps you, driven to get to that next level, is having people, like Miss, Dr. Debbie, or even, Sharon, which I never believe in a million years that she was ever shy. I'm going to use the word, maybe she was like conservative and reserved at one point, but that's about it. I think it's so important to make sure that you have people behind you that are willing to foster that growth in you. Always ask for more. Never think that you are above something. Always take on as much as you possibly can. Ask for everything. I think that was one of the things that I really learned very early on, and with my managers, because they would rather just kind of play with their cars than actually do their jobs. And so I took full advantage of that. I was like, sure, no problem. I can do that. And if I don't, I know how to ask a question. And so I raised my hand a lot and I just made it happen. And I think a lot of times women as a whole are intimidated about asking questions for fear that we're going to be judged. And I can tell you, men don't think that for a quick second that they're going to be judged. They just do. So never be afraid to just raise your hand, ask the question. There truly is no such thing as a stupid question. It's the question that didn't ask that was stupid. So
Right.
I would definitely encourage all women to make sure that you raise your hand and be bold. Be bossy if you have to. Bossy is sometimes synonymous with other words, but when men do it, it doesn't mean the same thing. So take that page from a man. If they're going in there and if they're asking for a raise, go in there and ask for a raise. Why not? I know you're worth it. You have to know that you're worth it. I think that's a big thing that we do, is we don't give ourselves that value that other people do. And we have to take ownership of that, know how amazing and beautiful and fabulous we are in our spirit, not just on the exterior, because we know we're fabulous and beautiful, but you have to know that within your heart. And I think that makes a huge
Right.
difference.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate that. Great advice. I hope everybody's just taking some notes as this wonderful advice is coming through. Tracy, let's shoot it over to you. What advice would you have for women who are starting out in their career, early in their career?
Yeah, so my answer is similar to Kim's. I strongly believe in education. I've gone back to school twice after getting my original degree, and I have my CPM with IRM. It's just very important to continue to always be educating yourself and learning. I'm 54 years old, and I know I don't know everything, and I continue to, I'm not as big on reading books anymore. For some reason, my attention span's gotten shorter, but I love podcasts and I love doing the Audible books on, when I'm in the car, and I think I average like 25,000 miles a year on my car. I think all of us do in this industry. We're always in our car. So you just continually learning, because if we, that's one thing in our industry that happens is we I hear a lot of times, oh, well, because we've always done it that way. I mean, I started in this business in 1989, and there are still things that we do today that we did just like I did as a leasing agent back in 1989. For example, market surveys. Someone please come up with a different way to do a market survey. But yeah, I think you need to identify early in your career what you want to be known for. For me, reputation is everything. And if you say you're going to do something, you do it. You meet your deadlines. You always meet your deadlines. And if you say you're going to be there, you be there.
Love it. Love it. Being known as a person of your word is really important. Love that answer, Tracy. Thank you so much. Sharon, talk to us about advice you would give.
Yes, I love this question. And, you know, as I thought back through my career, what I felt like made a difference that would maybe helpful to people today is the advice to really own your power to lead. Some people feel like they have to wait until they get a certain title, or they can't lead until it's granted to them, or they don't have control. And I would tell you that's just not true. In my career, I don't think I ever asked for one leadership position that I got. It came to me as a result of me already owning and doing the position. I just assumed the role. So then naturally it happened. So, you know, leadership is not about titles or seniority. It's not about status or management. It's really about the power and the ability and knowing when to use it to influence those people around you. So regardless of what your role is today, for those that are here, no matter what it is, show up, lean in, listen, engage, lift up and inspire others. The rest of it will just come, because if you're just waiting to get an invitation before you can lead, then you're probably going to be waiting for a really long time. And the second is to pick your battles. There's something really true about the saying, don't sweat the small stuff. And, you know, life naturally toughens you up as you get older. Things don't stress you out quite as much as they used to. And then you learn that it's not always about winning. Sure, winning's a powerful feeling. And I'm one of the most competitive people I know. Kevin, you and I share that. You're smiling. And I do hate to lose, but I will tell you that I also realize that losing is part of the journey. And so I just divert my energies elsewhere. And I always try to ask the question, what difference will winning this, whether it's an argument or whether it's a point or whether it's trying to do something a certain way, if I win this, what difference is that going to make in the long run? Am I going to be able to live with myself? And that really helps you determine whether or not it's something you have to worry about and stress over. So fight for only what matters. And there's, you know, power in saying less sometimes. So that, I'm going to say less.
More great advice. Man, I hope you guys are taking notes. This is some good stuff. Holly, what advice would you give to women who are just starting out? Men, listen up too here.
So I would follow Kim's advice to some extent, in that I think it's really important throughout your career, but especially when you're young in your career, to engage, to be proactive, to ask questions, to jump in, to lean in, to ask for more, to raise your hand for new opportunities, to raise your hand to be involved in new and different things, and to get exposure. I would tell you that I have been a huge proponent of mentors, and I've had many mentors throughout my career, both men and women, both within my organization and outside of my organization. And when I look back, the one thing that they consistently all did for me is give me exposure to new roles, exposure to new opportunities, to new initiatives, to learning, exposure within the industry and exposure within the community, which I think is important too. So engage, lean in, and get involved.
Love it. Fantastic advice for everybody. I hope you're listening. The good news is we're recording this event, so it will be available as well on our website, so you can listen to this again and get even more from it. Let's move on to the next question. Tracy, I'm going to come to you for this one first, if you are ready. We're obviously in challenging times right now, but this is not the only challenging time that we have faced. They've been different, but we all have ups and downs, good days, bad days, and days where maybe it's harder than others to get ourselves going. So Tracy, how do you motivate yourself? How do you stay motivated when tough times are tough?
Well, I can't believe Sharon already said this, but I love the feeling of winning. So I think we're all super competitive if we're in this industry, and I mean that feeling of a win. And we obviously we don't win all the time. We have a lot of losses. I know Mark Pollock, who started Rangewater with Stephen Shores. He often said, I've never seen a more imperfect business. Like, we're always striving for perfection, but we can't ever quite get there. Like, we're on this treadmill racing to get there. So anyways, I know that, y'all probably feel the same way. I love being able to stay current, and I don't ever want to be looked at as being old school. So I really focus on looking at other industries, not only just for our own company, but just to bring our industry along with the rest of the world as well. So I guess I just have my own game in my head that I'm constantly playing, and so just going for that win. That's what keeps me motivated.
I love that. Sharon mentioned it as well. I'm hyper competitive. That might be my number one strength on Strength Finders. I won't admit that publicly, but it might be. So I get where you're coming from there 100%, Tracy. Thank you for that. That's a great way to motivate yourself for sure. Sharon, how about you? How do you motivate yourself and stay motivated?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think motivation for some people comes naturally. They don't have to work really hard at it. And maybe that's because they came from a family and they learned the ability to sort of watch, their parents keep themselves entertained and motivated. Maybe you were only child and had to do it. So whether it's genetic or not, or learned, or regardless of your upbringing, I do think there's ways that you can discipline yourself to stay motivated. And some of us might need a little more kick than others. So when I look at those that I admire, that I'm watching and they stay motivated, there's a common thread among them. And it's usually those that are most motivated and the happiest and have the most energy. And I'm thinking of you, Debbie, right now. They are servicing others. They're always doing something for other people. So what I try to do is when I wake up every day, before I immerse myself in the hundreds of emails or the daily grind or the phone calls, I really just try to center myself. And I think about what opportunities might present themselves that day based on my schedule to make a difference the best that I possibly can. It sounds completely Pollyannish, and I know it is, but it does help set the tone for me. So, aside from that daily, at least once a week, I also just try to find all of the items that I'm thankful for. I do a lot of journaling, and I make sure that I'm also expressing gratitude and that it's woven into my day. And I think giving back to others is probably the best way that I can find my own inner motivation.
I like that a lot too. Thank you very much, Sharon. Holly, let's turn it over to you. How do you motivate yourself day to day?
So I think my team would laugh if they heard me answering this question, because I just feel like naturally I am a very, very motivated person. It's just part of my DNA, high energy and high motivation. So what's probably more important for me personally is just ensuring that that's sustainable, which leads me to talk about balance. So for me, it's balance and staying balanced. And in an attempt to stay balanced, I walk 5 miles a day, which keeps my head straight and keeps me sane, and keeps me feeling really good. I also disconnect at night and really am mom and am playing with my kids in super fun, amazing, grateful ways. And then I think thirdly, I really am intentional about personally connecting with people at work around what if and what could we do different and what's next, and just thinking about things that aren't yet to come. It keeps me moving and keeps me energized.
I love that kind of strategic mindset and 30,000 foot view, and keep that in mind as a motivator. Love that, Holly. Kim, talk to us. What motivates you? How do you stay motivated?
Oh boy, let's see. I would say I think I agree with all of the women. For me, it's extremely highly competitive. I like to be number one. And if I'm not number one, then we have a problem, right? So I'm all about, I'm under the mindset of, either you're winning or you're learning, right? So when you're learning, you're still winning. So there's no such thing as true failure. It's just either you've learned a lesson to make sure that you win the next time, or you're just truly winning that first time around, which is always a blessing, but never guaranteed, right? So that's one. I think for me, it's probably a little bit different than some of the other women because there are very few African-American women in leadership in this industry. And so because of that, I feel like I do have a responsibility as a woman of color to be that kind of beacon of hope and representative for those that look like me that are trying to get into this industry and trying to grow in this industry. So I have to always be winning in whatever it is that I'm doing. So for me, that means not necessarily being number one, but always giving my 110% in everything that I do to be that representative for those that are trying to get to that level. I think that's really important. I also really follow the mantra of trying to be a better version of myself every single day. So, it's easy to, put yourself down of, oh gosh, I had 10 things on my list and I only got to 2. But it's okay, well, I only got to 2 yesterday. So gosh darn it, I swear to you, I'm going to get to 3 today. And if I didn't, those 2 are going to be fantabulous too. Just to make sure that you're always just kind of one-upping yourself every single day. And sometimes it's just the small victories. It's not the big, huge projects that have to be, you're checking those boxes on. It's sometimes the little things that you were able to motivate an employee to do the best that they could do that particular day. One of my coworkers always says, in this industry, you always have to have a servant's heart. And I think that's something that we all, I think we all can really identify with. Because this industry is very cray. It's like cray, and you have to be a little bit cray to even do this job.
Right.
So if you don't have that service heart, then you're done, right? I mean, you're in a straitjacket, literally. So I think it's really important to make sure you have that servant's heart and wanted to be able to give back to people. But just again, being a better version of yourself every single day. And then making sure that you're wanting to kick butt. So, I mean, my goal is I love Sharon, but she's got to go. Like, I mean, it's nothing personal. I love her, but I want to be number 1 at all times. So I'm gonna help her to be number 2. I think that's more than fair. So.
Love it. Thank you, Kim. I love a little levity thrown in too as well. I love that. I love the better version of yourself every day. Constant improvement is an absolutely important part of our growth personally and in our careers in leadership. So thank you for that. What I think a lot of our participants are seeing is that these conversations could go on all afternoon. These leaders are fantastic and have such great feedback for us. We don't have all afternoon though, so we're going to be wrapping it up soon. But I want to ask a final, maybe not final, maybe one more after this one, question of the panel. Sharon, I'm going to come to you for this one first, if you don't mind. And the question is this. What are you doing differently, or do you plan to do differently to ensure effective leadership and high levels of engagement during these new virtual times?
Yes, good one. And I think my answer is a combination of some things we are doing and some I plan on doing. It's interesting, I watch teenagers and young adults in this little world that we're in where everything's camera in our face, and it just comes so naturally. And then for some of us, it doesn't come naturally. We're struggling, and not that we're struggling technically, but sometimes we may feel like it's hard to show our authenticity because we're out of our normal environment, being face to face. I miss seeing these ladies so much. And I think the interpersonal dynamics in this new world are hard to manage, even harder over video. I find that it's easier to lose people's attention, my attention. Tracy talked about I'm the same way. Like my attention span is just not what it used to be. So what do we do differently, and how do we keep people's attention? So a few things. One of the things we're looking at is really revamping communication plans. And I'm doing that either personally for my direct reports and trying to look at the organization at large as well. How can we be more strategic in our message and the format? Do we need to ask more questions? We should probably be thinking about leaving extra moments of silence. Silence is actually okay. We don't have to fill every moment. Also, best practices for meetings. Meetings as we knew it, the best practices for this, let's know more. So we probably have to think about new ways to do that. And do we need to check in with our teams more? Is the once a week catch up with your direct report, is that even enough anymore? Do we need to be checking in more frequently? If a meeting was an hour in the office, does it need to be an hour if it's virtual? And so those are the types of things, even following up every meeting with a written summary to make sure, even though everyone wasn't physically present, that they get the details later. So lots of different technical things that I think we may have to think about and how to do differently. Also, I think as leaders, for those that are on the call that have direct reports, I think you have to be really in tune with your direct reports and asking them, what challenges are you facing in this virtual environment? Some people are just really struggling to find their place. Some people I've noticed, they're very vocal in person, and then now that we're on phone and video, they're not as vocal. Some people can run a really great meeting live, but then they've learned that they've gotten in these virtual meetings and they're not so good at it, perhaps. So I think, there's lots of opportunities for us here. And I think the positive of it all is that we get even more ways to be strategic and flexible. The first part of what we had to go through during this pandemic, we were spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to be on the defense, right? We were creating standards, protocols, policies, trying to figure out how to operate. And now it's time for us as leaders and as an organization and industry to shift into a defensive or an offensive mode. So now we can look for opportunities to really change our business, look for emerging technologies, look for ways to do things that we've never done it before. We've also spent a lot of time, things we have done, what we'll do more of, is strengthening company culture. That's critical to us. And we've done that through the same things you guys have, virtual happy hours, fitness challenges, putting some theme into our meetings with the video meetings, whether it's a meme, a wig, a hat, or a backdrop. So those are all the things that we're focusing on. The culture, we want to make sure that what's happening in the outside world doesn't start eating away at some of the most critical pieces of an organization, which is culture.
Love it. Again, great tidbits of advice there and things that can be literally taken and executed on starting today if you wanted to do that. Great answer. Thank you, Sharon. Holly, talk to us about what you're doing differently or plan to do differently in this new environment.
Yeah, happy to. I'll share 3 things with you that I think have been successful for our organization. First and foremost, we are hosting a weekly Teams meeting for all leaders and all managers. So we might have 65 people on this Teams call, and everybody is on video. And there's a portion of it that is social and personal, but then there's also a work component to it as well. But I think that begins to keep us connected. Secondly, I would share with you that over the years, throughout our journey or throughout my journey, I've always kept a wish list of things that I'd like to accomplish when we have time to accomplish them or when we're not so busy. So we have resurrected that wish list. And from that wish list, we've identified 10 initiatives that we want to accomplish during this period together as a team. We're calling it Co-op 2020 for COVID Operation 2020. And we have created teams and sub-teams that are cross-pollinated or cross-sectional, people. So we're pulling people together on teams that don't normally work together to complete an initiative. And every week there is an update on progress toward that initiative on our weekly Teams call. So that's been super. So we're productive and we're creating great products and tools and programs in this virtual situation. And I would say lastly, I mentioned to you that I walk 5 miles a day. So I've really started to use that 5-mile walking time in a really productive way. I am either on calls to various team members, connecting with them personally, or I will invite them to join me. And I can't tell you how many people have joined me on walks along the Chattahoochee River during the day. And it's team members. So it's just a way to personally connect and stay connected with them.
I really like that one, Holly. The opportunity to to get healthier, get some exercise in, and spend that quality time is a great
Yep.
idea. Thank you so much for that. Kim, what are you doing differently? What are you planning to do differently?
What we're doing differently, we obviously went into quarantine about March 15th or so, and are literally just now coming back to the office on a regular basis. So from that time until now, we've been doing weekly calls, much like everyone else. What we started with was really fun because we were actually at one point having like almost daily calls, and then it went to like every other day. Now we're kind of down to once a week. But we would have every other Friday yoga. So the idea of having your engineers in their offices doing yoga was absolutely comical and so much fun to see them just engaging with us. That was a lot of fun. We also do weekly kudos. So all of the departments between engineering, PM, we all come together and managers will basically recommend people for kudos, shout outs during our meetings. And so every week we'll have something going on where someone, volunteered to help another team finish a budget or something of that nature. And so we're recognizing them. And it could be the smallest of things. I sent out Monday morning motivation memes or messages or quotes every single Monday morning around 8 or 8:30. Sometimes I will put in something really quirky and not so motivational. It's actually more like a dig. And if someone actually emails me back and says, "What was that about?" they actually get a $25 gift card. I just want to see if they're paying attention. So it's just different ways to keep people engaged. We've had obviously the happy hours, but I think one of the most fun things we did is we had a baby picture competition with all of our PM department, and just kind of getting to know people. I think was really important during this time because we're, especially on the office side, we're all separated in our satellite offices. Some are in HQ and things of that nature, and making sure everybody really got to know each other. Because when you're so distant, you're not having your monthly meetings and things of that nature. I think it gets a little hard. You feel that disconnect. So being able to connect even in a personal way makes a big difference. Something recently that I've actually started doing outside of just sometimes daily check-ins with my PMs is also to schedule once a month or every 2-week calls with some of my entry-level people, my property administrators, to ask them how things are going for them, for their team. Are they feeling like they're still engaged? What is it that they need resource-wise to get to that next level, and keeping them motivated? Because I think it's probably easier for them to be demotivated, being that they're not used to being since they're used to being in the office, and now they don't have that one-on-one that they used to
Right.
with their teams.
Right.
So I think that's been huge for I think across the board with our PAs, is really getting them engaged in what they're wanting to do, and even having them teach training classes for the rest of our team has been incredible, because they have more time on their hands without as many tenants in the building. They have a lot more time to be able to be more creative, and that's been
I love
absolutely
that.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
love that, Kim. It's interesting in our business, so many people have the personality, they want to be around people. They're people. And, this has stopped that over the last few months, or certainly curtailed it greatly. So to give people an opportunity to engage themselves is a really fantastic idea. I love that very, very much. Tracy, talk to us about what you're doing differently or plan to do differently.
Oh, I love all these ideas. So I'm focusing so much on what you guys are saying. I'm forgetting what I'm going to say next, but no, just kidding. I think what's different now is, just I feel more vulnerable, and I feel that we're really focused on being transparent and saying when we don't know an answer, we don't know, but we're figuring it out as we go. We're trying to maneuver through this pandemic. It doesn't look like there's any end in sight, so I know that's frustrating, scary, it's exhausting. We're learning what diversity inclusion really means. So I think overall, I would say that I am really focused on becoming a better listener, and really trying to sit back and listen to what everybody else has to say, and use everyone's input more on how we make our decisions for our company moving forward.
Again, fantastic answer. I think, listening is something that is great anytime, but in this environment, we're virtual, hearing, listening even more than we had done in the past is a great way to go about your day and your life and your work life for sure. Thank you so much for that, Tracy. We have one final question that I'm going to be asking our panelists. It is a question, and the answer to the question will give you something you can take today and put into action today. So stay tuned for that. But before we get to that final question, luckily we have gotten a couple of technical issues corrected, and we're going to be able to have a better opportunity to provide information regarding our partner sponsors today. I didn't do a great job of introducing them, and we need to do better at that. So while you anticipate the final question and the answers to those questions, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Tucker to introduce in the right way our partners and sponsors today. Thanks, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. Real quick, for those who don't know, IREM's industry partners are a little bit different than most associations in that we only allow two representatives from each industry or each trade. So it's more of a select group of partners that really want to partner with the leaders in this industry. So it's our opportunity to hear from them and leverage their skills, especially during this difficult time. So I will start with George Rakestraw from MyTech. If you want to give us maybe a 30 to 60 second blurb to tell us what you do, so the team can hear you.
Sure thing. Good afternoon, IREM, Georgia. My name again is George Rakestraw. I'm the Director of Account Management here at MyTech. For most of you who don't know, MyTech is a property and protection services company. We specialize in service, inspection, installation of fire alarm, sprinkler, extinguisher, suppression systems, as well as monitoring. But we don't stop there. We also provide security, card access, and camera solutions as well, basically providing a full one-stop shop for all your life safety needs. We've been in business for well over 30 years with offices across the Southeast region. That includes Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama, Texas, and we pride ourselves in delivering service that will exceed your expectation every time. So if you have a current service provider that is keeping you an alarm, just give me a call. We'll take care of you.
All right, George, well done. Appreciate that. I like the ending. Next, we'll go to Dana Crawford with PTR Controlled Access Gates.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. And I must say, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I have learned so much, and I just really appreciate all these women with these careers. My gosh, such a bounty of wonderful information. Thanks, guys. It's awesome. My name is Dana Crawford. I'm with PTR Controlled Access, and we also do access control, automatic gates, locksmith services, and CCTV cameras. We do installation, design, service, and let me just look at my notes here. Multifamily, commercial, industrial, and retail. So I handle business development. I wear a few other hats in the company, but please feel free to reach out anytime that you need any kind of access control. Happy to help. Excited to be here and love IREM. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dana. Appreciate that. We'll finish strong with Brandon Bagby at Valley Living.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I guess it's afternoon now. Just want to say thank you to the IREM team, to Deborah Westfall for welcoming me 5 years ago when I started with Valley Living. I don't think there's many events that I've missed IREM related, and I just love the family type environment and just the atmosphere, and of course all of the knowledge that it brings. it's just a great environment to be in. Everybody's more interested in connecting than looking at their cell phones the whole time while they're talking to you. So anyways, that's just a quick plug on IREM there. But so I'm with Valley Living. Most people know us as a Valley Trash and Recycling Company, which we've been for 20 plus years, but we've really kind of evolved into the, as I'll call it, the evolution of Doorstep. Just a quick couple new products out, right? So along with our standard Doorstep service, we have interactive Doorstep, which actually sends push notifications to residents so they know when our team arrives, when our team leaves, and in between that time, they can communicate with our valet. So just trying to take the missed trash conversation off of the on-site teams and be more resident focused and resident facing. Part two of that, and kind of like a version on steroids, is actually a Valley Living Home app where we actually have pet walkers, apartment cleans, virtual events. The list goes on and on. All of that is done by W-2 employees of our company, no independent contractors like you might have at WAG or some of these other companies. And then lastly, I know I have Cortland people on here and Rangewater people. We also have merged about a year ago with Torch Fitness with Ty and Nicole. So we are partnered with them. And, that's a whole nother conversation right there for communities that have outdoor spaces or in this warmer weather environment. We can do live outdoor fitness classes still through the Torch team. And then there's a very robust virtual program as well that has things such as cooking classes and bingo night and sip and paints, and the list goes on and on. So anyways, that's a little bit about what's going on with Valley Living. If anybody has any questions, please reach out to me. And thanks again to the IREM team as always.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Thank you to all three of our industry partners. And I'd like to also thank the panel today. This has been incredibly insightful, and you all did a great job. And thank you so much. So Kevin, I'll give it back to you.
Thanks, Jonathan. And I'll add my thanks to our sponsors as well. You guys are great partners. We really appreciate you. As we prepare for the final question to wrap up our session today, I do want to let you know of two quick updates of events coming up for IREM. In September, on the 21st and the 22nd, Dr. Debbie Phillips will be leading a virtual course, highly interactive virtual course called Leading a Winning Property Management Team. If you haven't taken that course, it's a great opportunity to spend some time with Dr. Debbie and learn a lot from her. And then on the 23rd and 24th of September, Dr. Debbie will be leading a course called Marketing and Leasing Strategies. Marketing and Leasing Strategies. So I highly recommend those courses. They are virtual, but Dr. Debbie does a great job of interacting and getting everybody involved. So please mark those on your calendar. You can register for those courses at our website at iremgeorgia.org. Final question for the group. Hope you have your pens, pencils, phones, something to write this information down. You're going to take it with you. Holly, I'm coming to you first. What is one book that is must read for aspiring leaders? What one book do you recommend? Holly?
So I would recommend Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It's been a great source of inspiration for me and really helped me rethink business.
Love it. Love that book. Thank you, Holly, very much. Kim, one book you'd recommend?
One book. One book on leadership I would recommend is The Canoe Theory, a business success strategy for leaders and associates by Hybrid and Stockman. It gives you a great baseline on how to manage and lead your team.
Awesome. That's a great book as well. Tracy, one book you would recommend as must reading?
Book I chose is Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's where he takes organizations and the great organizations and analyzes them and really puts on paper why they are great. So it's a great read.
Another awesome book. Thank you so much, Tracy. Sharon, one book that is must reading for aspiring leaders?
Yes, so it's actually targeted to girls. Sorry, guys, but it's a great book, I promise. Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office 101 came out in 2004, but 10 years later, there was revised and updated. Nice Girls Still Don't Get the Corner Office. She's written lots of great books, but those are two that were really helpful to me in my career early on.
Love that. Thank you all so much. And once again, thank you to this panel. You have been outstanding. I could not have asked for more. Your answers have been insightful, And I know that this whole group has learned so much from you all today. Thank you very much for participating. And thanks to everyone who joined today. Really appreciate your time. Have a wonderful afternoon. Go IRM, Georgia. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Miss Maria.
I love seeing you. I love your background.
Oh, thank you. I saw your notes. I see so many names. Oh, it's so wonderful. And there's Erica
Oh my
and
goodness.
David. I saw you wiggling your pen. Yes, yes. Kim, gosh, wonderful. She did fabulous. There was Holly. Oh, you guys have a great week.
See you guys. Take care.
Bye. Hey, Natasha. Ending.